right, so we're to 1953. Dad's working at Ford. You moved to Normandy, a place
Yes.
I remember,
Right.
which all my siblings don't remember because some weren't even there.
Right.
All right, so start to
It
talk.
was 1955. To get into the religion, it's a fact that every place we moved, there was a church within a block of our house. Always. And we didn't, and that was a totally God thing because we didn't know that. When we bought the house on Normandy, we did not know that St. Angela's was going to be half a block away. And when we got in there, St. Angela's was not only not built, we used to help set up the chairs to put in the school, at Kern School, because there was no, there was no building, there was nothing.
There, right?
So we helped to build St. Angela's, and we paid money, pledged, and that kind of stuff, to help build it. And that's where we met many friends, like Boris's, like a lot of friends, McCarthy's and Van Fleet's, and all these people that impacted our life. And
That's St. Angela's.
yeah, St. Angela's, right. And one of the greatest things about that, and then when we moved to Audubon, was everybody had really large families. And so when you kids grew up, you only knew what it was like to have a large family around, and be with kids that had large families. Many people don't have that experience, and the kids today do not have that experience. You guys were very unique in that because you thought everybody had 20 kids, and they did. But they had 12, they had 9, they had 10, they had 11, and that's the way you grew up. And that was you were very privileged, I think, and you had excellent education there. It was very good. We had a gorgeous house. We had plenty of room. We had everything. Everything was gorgeous.
So did you want to speak of now since it's on your mind about religion, or did you want to?
Well, it's just that we always lived near a church. I always have been religious, but in my later years now, I've gotten much more spiritual. I mean, I was always religious. I always said the rosary. I always prayed. I always went to church. Always went to church. And I, always did. But I was always religious. But I wasn't always spiritual. I'm much more spiritual now.
No, you weren't before.
But,
growing up, what was your parents' influence on you?
They didn't have much influence, and my dad practically never went to church. Just occasionally when he'd take me. My mother would go very occasionally, and so I didn't like. I didn't like the fact that I had to go to church by myself. I did go to church by myself, but I didn't like to have to go by myself.
So in a way, when you were growing up, you were more, at the time, let's say, religious than your family.
Yes, I was. Yes.
And so you went to church more than they did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and my dad never went, and my mother went occasionally. I mean, there was sometimes periods when she'd go every week for a while, but I mean, she never steadily went all the time. She really didn't.
Which church did you go to over there when you were growing?
Well, St. Francis Cabrini, where we got married, and then I remember taking the bus to go to confession at St. Margaret Mary's in Melvindale, because there wasn't. St. Francis Cabrini wasn't even there then. There wasn't even a church in Allen Park. We had to go to the one in Melvindale. So I just always been very religious.
So
I've not been. A lot of my friends grew up in the Catholic Church and went to Catholic school and all that kind of thing. I never did any of that.
Right.
But I did, make all the sacraments and everything. But so I didn't have some of the prejudice that some of my friends that grew up in Catholic schools had. I never had any of that. I just was close to God, and I just was always spiritual.
So that sort of showed from the beginning. It showed in your family when you were the one going to church the most.
Yeah.
This has always been an interest of yours, and it's stayed from now throughout your life. And in your later years, you become even more spiritual. So that's just been something that's developed.
Right. Okay,
All right. So tell us the story of all those 8. So you're in Roseville.
Okay, we're in Roseville. And first of all, when Dad and I first got married, we decided that we weren't going to have any children.
Oh, you did?
Yes, we did.
In
And
1950, you decided no children.
Right, and then as time went on, we decided we wanted some children. So
Why did you decide you wanted no children?
I don't know. That's just the way we thought at the time. I don't know. Young and stupid. Anyway, we decided we wanted children. Then I decided I wanted 12, and that's exactly the way I operate. It's one extreme or the other. So that I wanted 12. And Dad would say, "We'll have one, and then we'll decide if we want the next one." So that's what we did. And then however, God stepped in and said, no, you're not gonna, because I had many miscarriages, and I went to one doctor and he said, you'll never have any children. He didn't know anything, but that's all right. So then finally, I had a very good doctor in Grosse Pointe, and he said, you're not holding the children. As soon as I'd be 2 months pregnant, I'd lose them. I had miscarriage after miscarriage.
So you lose them early, is that how it went?
2 months, 2 months, yeah. So he said, the first second you get pregnant, you come in and we're going to give you something. And they gave me that DES, which now they say is not good and it causes people to have cancer and that kind of thing. But to the best of my knowledge, no one in the family has had that problem from that. You know, I took it for 9 months with you. I took it for 4 months with Bob, and I never had to take it again. And I carried all the rest of them without problems. And I did have one miscarriage someplace in there, but I never had any problems.
It was after Joey,
Yeah,
I recall.
but anyway. So then I had.
So hold on a second. So the first part of that story was different than people think. One, first you didn't want any kids. Then you found you couldn't have kids.
Right, that's right.
And so it really was this issue about whether you really. So you started out really, once you connected with really wanting a lot of kids, then there were obstacles. Then there were like,
Yes,
you
right.
said I want a lot of kids, and you were used
Right.
to, but no, you had to you had to stick with that.
That's true.
It wasn't just me not wanting to be ready to be born, which is what I always think of it.
No, that wasn't it.
5 times I was like, oh well, you have to make me. I basically, and DS was the only way you could get me to stay. I'm like, I'm not ready. I like it on the side.
Okay, then the first 4 kids I had, they were 15 and a half months apart.
Oh,
All of them. Then we got John towards the end, they got to be 2 years. But other than that, they were.
so one final thing about the DES. So you didn't. So the DES, after I was born, you didn't take it anymore.
I took it for Bob. I took it for 4 months with Bob, and I never took it again.
But when I was born, like there's always you take it after like when you're nursing. Right?
No, it's not that you don't take it. That's
Just
not
take it
that
when you're
It's
pregnant.
just to hold the baby in you, because for some reason I would miscarry, and so that worked like that, and they don't even use that anymore. And one time when I went to my doctor, he said, this was Dr. Lozada, he said, oh, you never took that DES. And I said, yes, I did. And he looked it up, and he said, oh, you did? He said, I don't remember we ever even used that. I said, oh, you did?
Yeah.
But we didn't have any.
So last thing about that. So how did you stop with Bob after 4 months? I mean, they just thought it would be okay to stop.
I just wasn't having any problems, and so they said stop, so I didn't. I didn't have any
Yeah,
problems.
so-
In fact, he was the easiest one, the easiest birth I had.
With Bob?
Yeah, he really was. So. And the only one that I had any problems with on the birth was Kathy. And she had, she stopped breathing, and they had code blue on it. And a couple of years afterwards, Lizetta asked me if she had any problems. He said she really should have had problems because she didn't breathe for a while. So, you know the story on that one.
So so what was it like? Let's stick with Roseville for a minute. Let's talk about Roseville. There's 4 kids in Roseville.
There was 5. We left when Ronnie was born. And he was little, but he was born. And when we moved into
He was just born.
yeah, well, he was just born, definitely. We moved into Roseville, cute little ranch type home, and we said we're going to live here for the rest of our life. Everybody else, all our neighbors were getting ready to move to Grosse Pointe from the minute they moved in. I always said, no, I don't want to move to Grosse Pointe. We're going to stay here for the rest of our life. Well, by the time we had 5 kids, we decided that wouldn't work. So for 5 years, we were looking for that house on Audubon.
Oh.
We were looking for a house like that, and when we finally saw it, the day we went to see it, the owner, it was his mother's house, but the owner, he was there, and we told him we'll take it. He said, no, you go home and think about it. We said, we don't have to think about it. It's a house we've been wanting our whole life long. We want it. So we did buy it from him, and I'm so glad because that was a perfect house to raise all you guys. It was gorgeous. And the neighborhood was gorgeous, and like I said, it was large families, and it was close to church, and it was just wonderful. And I'm very glad we were there. It was great. It was a wonderful place to raise you all. So that was really good.
So talk a little more about Roseville. So there was 5, and there was a lot of us in. I mean, we had one. It was a lot. It got a little crowded after a while.
Well, it was. We had 3 bedrooms, and they were tiny, tiny bedrooms, and a living room and a kitchen. And come on, and a basement, and but it was a great starter house, and it was fine, But it was just that it was just too small when you got 5 kids in there. When we had moved in, there was not anybody but Joe and I. It was too big. So, but then we moved to Audubon, and it was wonderful. So, what else do you want to know about that?
So thinking of all 8 of the kids, what else? What other? Tell me some of your best memories about all 8 of the kids, and then a few of the more challenging of all 8 of us.
The challenges were forever, but well, the best thing that happened was the cottage. In 1960,
Yeah.
we found that cottage up north, and that was wonderful. And then then around that time we had Nelsie.
Oh yeah.
And Nelsie you were 5 and she was 6.
And I was jealous.
Yeah, and that was, and we had her for about a year and a half. And we took her up to the cottage and, all this and that, and treated her as well as we could. She didn't think that but we thought we did as well as we could.
She didn't think that?
Well, I know she never kept in contact with us. I don't know what,
No, what happened with her different than Maria was that her mother came up from Cuba. Was that what happened?
Yes,
To New Jersey or something?
yes. Nelsie's mother came up from Cuba. She even stayed with us for a short while. But and then she went to New Jersey. She had sisters or somebody there, and then she saved up so Nelsie could come and live with her. And I remember when Nelsie left, she was crying. She said, "I'm not going to be able to talk to my mother because I can't speak Spanish anymore." And I said, "Oh, honey, as soon as she started talking to you, it'll all come right back." And of course it did, So, but we had her for about a year and a half,
So you felt bad that she never kind of stayed in contact?
Well, yeah, I thought that a year and a half is a long time to raise a child. It's not easy. And
But it's sort of at that age, it's to the mother. I mean, the 5-year-old's not going to know this shit or whatever.
well, no, but the mother corresponded with us a little bit. But then, once they got a little bit older, then she could have, written a little bit or something, and we never really heard. We lost contact, and that's fine. That's fine, And Gleason's had, Nelsie's brother, Jose, and
Oh, they did?
oh yeah, sure they did, and they
didn't know.
lost contact with him too. I mean, and whenever I see her, she always asks me, "Did you ever hear from him?" I said, "No, I never did." And she said, "No, you didn't either."
So they sort of got here and they made their own lives and they moved out.
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, I just think out of gratitude that they should have. But I don't know what they thought or didn't think or whatever. We did what we could do with them. So
Right. So other memories about all 8, or not all 8, but just other memories about us kids on the good side.
Well, I say in the rosary at night.
I remember that. I remember all of you. Everyone doesn't remember all, but
Yeah,
I guess I don't
everybody
remember the
remember
later
everything.
things that
Well,
when I went up to Cal's.
The Christmases were fantastic. You
Yeah.
couldn't get in the dining room.
Right.
I mean, that was a huge dining room. That was such a gorgeous house.
It was.
And and then the kitchen table that went on, and we still have that kitchen table in our basement here.
Oh, that kitchen. Oh, yeah.
Still, isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Now we
it's
got that when you kids were. That must be 50 years old than us.
Yeah, I love that table. I remember it.
We had it made special, and it was a good price.
We had it made special?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. They didn't make them like that. Dad designed it. It had to be long and skinny,
Yeah, right.
and so everybody could sit around it, And
I didn't know they had that table design.
yes, oh, absolutely. And we still have it. So it was a good design, and we didn't spend a lot.
Well, who made it? Where did we get it from?
Oh, one of these places, someplace here in Roseville, but I can't really remember the name of it now. But it must have been 50 years ago,
Yeah.
So,
We had every meal around the table. That was the only table there was.
yeah, no, it was, the whole thing, that whole era was wonderful. We met the Hobens and the Rabos and the Ronkowskis and, all your Eichenlaub and, everybody.
Sure,
We were in
yeah.
CFM there. We helped everybody that we could, Mrs. Wagner that died of MS and, all that kind of stuff. We were active in CFM all the time. And then you kids went on to high school and you had good high school. You all had very good educations. And then you went on to college and you had very good educations. And you all did great. And how we ever did it, I have no idea. When I see Lisa with all those kids, I think, I don't know how I ever handled all of you. And
Oh, did you?
well, I had to be the disciplinarian because Dad would not discipline, so I just did it, that's all.
Well, we knew you were the disciplinarian.
Well, I know, well, I had to be, or he wouldn't be anyway. I had a whole ton of kids and 5 boys, I had to be the disciplinarian.
You know,
So I was, but, I'm
You
very
understand-
happy with the way you all turned out. One time when we were at a psychiatrist for, I think for Kathy sometime, or I don't know, but anyway, sometime when I was at a psychiatrist, they said, all your family is high achievers, and I said, I know, that's true, they are, you are, all of you are, Thank God for that, and it's God, it's the discipline and the religion together that, even though you're not all Catholic, you're all religious, and that's
Absolutely.
fine,
Absolutely.
And
So-
and we have a very strong family. You certainly know that.
Right.
And no matter what happens, and everything happens, but no matter what happens, we stick together and we work it out and we pull together. And that there's we've had a lot of things in this family, and as does everybody. I mean, but God has always been with us, and we've pulled through it all, and we continue to pull through.
Talk a little more about that notion of that value that whatever happens, the family's going to stick together, and that's something you sort of instilled in people. And
Family's number one. Family is the most important thing, and that's probably more than anything else. That's an old Italian value too. But you just do everything with the family, and if there's a problem, it's the whole family's problem. It's not one person's problem, and that's the way we've always been, and that always will be. When Dad had his operation, everybody was in the room. Not that he remembers, he doesn't, but we were all there. And I remember Joey and Ricky were just so devastated. They were crying, couldn't get themselves together at all. But that didn't matter. I mean, we were all there. Whenever there's a problem, we're all there and we're all together. And we've been with everything. Like with Kelly, look how many weeks we went. Every Sunday we went someplace and got together. And
But what's interesting about that value that was sort of espoused from both of you is that you guys didn't get that 100% from your own families. You actually, your own families were missing some of that. In some ways. Your father's family were all sort of spread apart. Your
wait till you hear about him more so than mine even.
I mean, his father was unfamily. He didn't even like kids. I mean,
That's right.
and so there was the Italian heritage in family, the Geneva connection.
Right.
But you two took this value of family even more than you were raised, and you raised it to another
That's
level,
true. That's very true.
which is great.
No, that's really, really true. I mean, like I said, whatever happens, we're together as a family, and that's the way, it doesn't matter what happens. And we've gone through a lot of things with a lot of people. We still are, but that's okay. I mean, we're still family, and we still stick together, and we try the best to help one another the best we can, because we're all in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is you should be proud because that really was a lot of your addition to it. It wasn't just, you didn't just pass that on. You came up with that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a very important value that I think,
Well, you want to be at? You want your time?
I believe so.
I don't think I have much more to say, Dennis. I mean, we covered just about everything on it. What else do you want me to talk about?
Well, we could make it an hour and a half rather than 2 hours, I guess. So that
I got 15 minutes.
he's got notes. Oh man, we're in trouble. He's got notes. You can go practice with Sean.
Grandchildren. Yeah,
grandchildren.
I haven't even got I barely got the children in, Andrea. I didn't get the weddings in at all. Go ahead, Dennis. Where are we now?
He's getting all anxious.
Go ahead. Yes.
No, he said he's talking about the things and not the people. So one of so actually this value of family was something you and Dad crafted together because he has that. He's got
Yes,
that.
yes.
He really got that from Geneva. He didn't get
Well,
that
he didn't.
from his mother.
He definitely didn't. That's what I said. When you hear that, you'll realize that more and more so. But from Geneva, and because I never had a family,
like Geneva.
I latched onto their family and was very happy to have them. Like I knew his grandmother and grandfather, and his grandmother thought I was beautiful and I loved her. And the aunts, I've always been close to his aunts and everything, and always, he would never keep in contact with them, but I always did, and it's always been a strong value for me.
So what happened is that he had that family was really Geneva. That was the crux of the family. That's where he learned those family kind of values.
Right.
And what you're saying is you were sort of exposed to it. You said, oh, wait a minute, that's something. So oftentimes in your life, you sort of paid attention to what you sort of wanted. And you saw that and you said, now that's sort of what I want.
Right.
And so then you married those two together and then you sort of brought that. But in the terms of raising us, you were certainly the disciplinarian. One of the things that I say a lot, which is kind of weird, is that I never, with one exception, certainly not when I was a kid, I never saw Dad get mad. Never. Now most people can't say that about your father. You couldn't say that about your father, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
I never saw him get mad. The only time I ever saw him get mad was at Ryan's ministry.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of curious. So you had to be the disciplinarian. We knew that you would get mad. When you would get mad, we always thought of it as sort of the Irish way. You get mad, and then you'd be mad, and then like 5 minutes later.
I get over it right away, but I get very, very mad.
Yeah, you're right.
And I thought that was all gone away, but I have found in the last few years it's come back again, and I get very, very mad and very upset, but then very quickly it calms down. But you know that. So anyway.
Well, the thing is, I can handle your ankles, I know, but I've never seen you as bad as you were a year and a half ago. Interesting. But anyway, so you felt like you had to be the disciplinarian, and so what was it like to raise 5 boys and 3 girls? The boys that were a little crazy, and the girls, they were different.
Well, they were different. Boys and girls are different. I've always said that. They are very, very different. I have a lot of friends that have not as large families as I do, but large families. They're always complaining about, they raised these kids, it was so hard. I never, ever felt that way. I really never did. I mean, not to say that now once in a while I was ready to kill everybody in sight, but I mean, for the most part, I never said, oh, poor me, that I've got all these kids to raise, because I knew that it wasn't poor me. I chose to do this.
Right.
And I was, I just never felt that I was deprived. And I really never was deprived.
Right.
I really wasn't. Dad was not a good disciplinarian, but he was always there for me. He always backed me. He always did everything for me.
He was always
whatever
there.
Whatever I wanted, I got. He never said, no, Pat, you can't have this. No, Pat, you can't do this.
And he was always there. I mean, he was always there. He wasn't always there emotionally, but he was always there physically. He was always there.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know Kevin has often said to me, how did I handle it when he went to his mother's every day? I said, it didn't bother me at all. I got the chance to do what I wanted to do. It wasn't that big a deal. It never was. It didn't really bother me. And again, once in a while I get upset, but for the most part, it really didn't bother me. And having all those kids did not, for the most part, bother me. I enjoyed all of you guys. And, sometimes when you threw mud on somebody's lawn or on their clothes or things like that, I get a little upset.
You marched us around the corner to apologize for throwing mud on the picture that very day.
But it really, I didn't find it difficult. I always have truly, Dennis, I was always felt that God has blessed me. Always. I mean, I have I have 8 wonderful kids. You're all high achievers. You've all done marvelous in your lives. And this was true all the time. Other people have had a lot of problems. I never had. I mean, my husband was always faithful. I never had to worry about that. And like I said, he would give me anything. Somebody was saying to me the other day, well, what if somebody hit my new car? I said, well, so then we have a fix. They said, well, wouldn't Joe get mad? I said, no, Joe wouldn't say a word. And he wouldn't. He never, he's always thought, truthfully, he's always thought that I'm perfect. I can't do anything wrong. He's always loved me completely. And he's never, in whatever I want to do, he never says a word. I mean, all the time I was in World Book, I spent hours and hours and hours away from the house. He complained once in a while, but I mean, he really never complained. He never said I couldn't. And same today, I'm always with OA people someplace all the time. He never complains. He never says a word. he makes sure I have the best car, that I have the best, if I need money, make sure he gets it out of the bank. He's just very, very, very good to me, and he always has been, and he's always just, he just thinks I'm wonderful, and I like that.
That's a good arrangement.
Yeah, and I think that's very good, and I think he's wonderful too, because he's always been, like I said, he's always been so good to me. He's always been he just thinks that, that I'm perfect. And I know I'm not, but I'm glad he thinks I am. And somebody thinks you're perfect, even if you're not.
It works well, right?
Yeah, it does. It works well, but no, I mean, really. And, we've always had a good marriage. We very seldom fought. Now, not to say never, because sometimes we did. One thing you gotta put this in here, because this is way back, but it's true. When we were raising you kids, I was a spendthrift and he was a saver. Thank God. We wouldn't have what we have today if he wasn't the saver. But we have all over the place these little pieces of paper where he would sign saying that he wouldn't save any more money because I needed the money to spend for all you kids, and he'd sign it. He'd never do it. And so he'd keep on saving for it, and but because he did, we have everything we have today.
Then he was going to actually not save?
No, I didn't want him to save because we needed the money for you kids, for shoes and clothes and tuition and books and all that kind of stuff. And I would write down a piece of paper, I am not going to save it for Ford's, and have him sign it. But he would never do it.
So he'd sign it, but he kept doing it. He kept saving, which is why you have what you have today,
right?
Yeah,
absolutely. No, I mean, and I've told him many times, I give him total credit because we would not have this because I would have spent the money because he's gotten me now. He's gotten me very, very tight, just like him. Joe, I got 2 more minutes and you're okay up here, okay? 2 more minutes, Joe. Anyway, we had a very, very good marriage, and we didn't have very, very, very few problems, and he was always there for me, always, no matter what, I mean, I hear people talking about some girl was saying she went to the hospital and her husband didn't even come. I mean, I can't imagine that. I mean, I never had any, he was always there for me. He's always, I mean, he's just always been there for me, and I've never had any, any problems at all. He's always been very good. And in my whole life, I've never had very many problems. My health has been excellent. The worst health I had was when I was 6, when I had pneumonia.
Yeah, right.
I mean, my health, all you kids, when I had you kids, I had no problems at all. Everybody, most people say that they had C-sections and that kind of stuff. I never had any, I never had any problems. God has given me very, very good health, and I just don't have any problems. I'm so thankful today where I am. I love my life today. It is absolutely wonderful. I feel marvelous. I'm so tickled I lost this weight because I never thought I would be able to lose it at this age, but I actually did lose 50 pounds. I feel wonderful, and I still do whatever I want to do. And Sunday, Aunt Kay and I are going up for 4 days up north to gamble, and I don't abuse that privilege. I never have. I mean, I go and I spend on pennies and 2 cents, and I spend maybe $20 a day, and I worked for many, many a year. I can afford $20 a day, and I just love my life and where I am, and I'm just thankful to God that He's given me everything because He has. Amen.
Any final sort of words, both in terms of the grandkids, or is
I love the grandkids, of course. I mean, what a blessing to have, all these beautiful grandchildren. I mean, it's such a blessing. It's and I love, that I have always tried to make as many memories as I can with all my grandchildren. I always did. You've always said that you don't ask me to come because I always do. But I mean, thank God. I have so many wonderful memories, and I will always be eternally grateful for that memory with Kelly. I mean, I would have been horrible if I didn't have that, and I'm so thankful that I do. And I make it a point always, whenever I'm invited to any grandchildren things, if it's humanly possible for me to go, I'm going to be there. And I try to make a point when I'm at any of these things to talk to each grandchild as much as I'm able to do so.
Well, one of the things I think that's always been appreciated is that you get to know each grandchild individually. You know who all your grandchildren are, and you know what their needs are.
I try very, very hard to do that. Right? I try very, very hard. I mean, I'm not perfect yet, but I really, because I love them and I'm so proud of every one of them. And there's been things with the grandchildren that have been very devastating, you know. And but we got through them, and here we are, you know. And it will continue to be that way, I'm sure.
Well, another final thing is, in a way, by feeling that support that you and Dad have had with each other, that sort of unconditional supporting each other through everything. Then what happens is you take that, and then you give that to the kids. You sort of spread that to them, and then they spread it out. It's a good. It's a good thing.
Well, you know, we've also been very blessed in this family for the fact that we have got 6 kids that have been married over 26 years. Well, 5 that have been married over 26 years, and Ronnie looks pretty stable.
He's up at least 15.
6 kids in 13 14 years, you know. And I'm very thankful for that, because in today's world there's so many people that have divorces, just so many. But we've just been so very, very blessed. And in about a week and a half we're going to be married 58 years.
That's right. It's August. I remember. It's August. What? August
19.
58 years.
And we had those beautiful that 50th wedding anniversary party, that 40th wedding anniversary party, and you know we've had a million memories, and memories, to me, that's the thing that life is all about, and that's what I work on, is making memories with people, my family, with everybody. That's all I got to say to you.
All right, I think that kind of wraps it up. That's very good.
Thank you so much, sweetheart.
Oh,
I have to turn this off, or?
Andrew has one more question. I was going to ask you this, but I think you sort of answered this, but this is sort of really a statement to your grandkids in a way. The question is, how do you want? What do you want? Any last words for them? Right? How do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered that I had a good time, that I enjoyed life, that I was very spiritual, that I loved God, and I tried to be close to God, and tried to always do what God wanted me to do. Every day I tried to help whoever God wanted me to help as much as I possibly could. And that I want them to have the values of family. Because family is very, very important. And to love everybody, but especially to love your family, and always be there for your family no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent. Your family is your family, you're always there for them, and you help them any way you can, whenever you can.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Oh my God.
He's just ready.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we.